Today, I have been joined by a multimedia journalist with over 15 years experience, which spans radio, television, newspaper, and online media. He made his break into the media in 2007 when he appeared on the sports show of Sunyani-based Sky FM. Although then a secondary school student, he went on to secure a place at the station as producer and regular panelist on the show. After his senior secondary education, he came to Accra and secured an opportunity with online news portal GhanaSoccer.com, GhanaSoccerNet.com, under the able tutelage of celebrated Ghanaian international sports journalist Ibrahim Sani Dara, who later became an anchor on the BBC. He gained admission later to the Ghana Institute of Journalism to formalize his journalism training. While on campus, he made series of appearances on various radio stations in Accra, including Happy FM, Pravda Radio, and Life FM. In 2009, he spoke on one of the BBC's programs back then, a show that sampled opinions from people across the world. He made his debut appearance on television in 2010 on GTV's Sports Plus show dubbed The Foul, and he has been a regular panelist on that show for the past 12 years. In 2017, he joined Ghana Sports Online as the editor for the website and manager of the social media handles. Currently, he is a regular on Asamoah FM show, Sports Nights. In November last year, he was appointed to serve on the Media and Communications Subcommittee, the local organizing committee for the 13th African Games, Accra 2023. My guest today is Emmanuel Akyereko Frimpong. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you very much, sir.
While growing up, you were a lover of sports, but how does a lover of sports become a journalist? I do not think the two automatically fit into each other. You can love sports and follow it without necessarily turning it into a craft. At what point did you establish the marriage between the two?
Well, I think that growing up, it was just not the love for sports. It was also an addiction for journalism at the time when I was young, because I always say that I was very fortunate. I live before the era pre-mobile phones, pre-Android. Yeah. I was fortunate to live in an era where it was just wireless radio that you have access to. And at that time, I quite remember how I got to start listening to radio, especially on the BBC. That time it wasn't even established in the current data we have here. So you wake up sometime around 3 a.m. or so, and then Joy FM picked just the sports slot that on the BBC. And I couldn't afford to miss that. I was also very addicted to various radio programs, sporting programs on radio. And I think that it was out of that. And these were not just my teenage, from the ages of, I think, 9, 10, 11, 12, up to the mid-teens and the late teens. So I got very much interested in sports, but also in sports journalism and radio in general, because I remember back in primary 6, the GBs had this program where they used to scout for young talent who were very much interested in radio and had the talent to be on radio. So back in Gyan, I remember there was this one time a delegation from GBC Sunyani came around. BR, it's called BR. They came around our school, boy people, Presby, and then they were looking for kids who are good. And they came in. Unfortunately, I wasn't selected. 2 of my colleagues were picked, and I couldn't handle it. I was saying in my head that this is what the opportunity I've always been looking for, to have access to radio, and I never got the chance. So it was very, very painful. So I think from that point in time, watching my colleagues from class 6 who had access to be on radio, something I'd always been dreaming of. So I think that it pushed me on, and then I pick up this attitude of calling regularly to contribute to various radio programs. Where I was in Sweden at the time. At the time, it was just that Ghana Telecom phone booth. So I would normally walk around because I didn't have money to buy the. I'll walk around and then pick the user cards and then test them if there are minutes on.
If there's some 1 or 2 minutes on it.
1 or 2 minutes at a time.
I remember.
So most of the time, unfortunately, sometimes I'll get 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So, but then I powered them. I kept something to do phone radio programs, call in, and then my contribution. And it wasn't restricted to sports. I was doing social, political programs. And I was very young at the time. I think I was 14, 15 at the time. So there was this one time that I met one of these guys who hosts a drive time show, and I introduced myself to him as, okay, this is me, this is Akyereko, the one who has been contributing to your program. And then he was shocked. We thought you are a grown-up kid, but I mean, you are. So I mean, that's how the whole things happened. So I think back then when I went to secondary school, the first year I was a day student. So there was this radio program on Sky FM in Shinyane that I listened to. I was an avid listener. I couldn't afford to make any of the time. So so the internet was also in that stage where it was coming up, and then internet cafes were being set up. So normally in the evenings, I would save up some of my pocket money and I'll go to the internet cafe. Right. So eventually that landed me up. So when I went to the secondary school in the first year, I was a day student at the Senior High School. Okay. So like I was saying, I'll save up some of my lunch money, and then in the evening I'll go to the internet cafe. So there was this one Saturday that I went and was in the cafe, and then I think I was reading stuff on BBC Sports. You know, back then the BBC had, I think the corporation decided to make changes at some point in time. So they had to do away with most of their programs and online content and all that. There was a content on BBC at the time and all that. So I was reading one of those and I heard a voice of a gentleman behind me. And apparently he used to be the host and producer of the Sky FM sports show, Peter Makofogo. So I walked up to him in a cafe, introduced myself, and then he was glad to meet me. And then in the conversation, eventually he invited me to appear on the show on a Saturday. So when I went, I found some very top senior colleagues in there. I found Kobe Jones in there. Okay. Mickey Chat in there. Mickey Chat, very renowned.
Yeah, that's right.
And then a couple of other guys in there at the time. So I asked myself, how can I make myself useful to these guys so that it doesn't look like I come in once and I don't come in again. So while sitting there, I saw that they were struggling to put content together in terms of that was the time that this is before WhatsApp, right? So messages that will come in is a normal YAM phone.
That's right.
And then the presenter will have to open each text message and then read them one by one.
That was laborious.
Making myself useful at the time. So as soon as I go in and I saw that they were struggling to do that, found a piece of paper and then start rewriting all the text messages and then giving it to.
You mean you made yourself a producer before being made a producer?
Yeah. So I think that's what I was talking about, the passion. I don't even know where this idea even came from in the first place. Nobody advised me to do that. I think I was just fascinated by just entering into the radio station studio and seeing back then that even the radio station studio is made up of, the design is egg crates that have been used to design it. So I was shocked. I was fascinated about all those things. So I told myself I will stay. I'm not going back. I've always been looking for this opportunity. So I did that. And when I got the opportunity to talk, I spoke very well. And I think they were very impressed. So after the show, the head of sports at the time, Kobe Jones, asked that I should be made regular on the show. I can come in to assist and all that and all. So that's how the whole journey began. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And because I was a schoolboy, I think the radio station owner at the time, Kwesi J, I greet him. He one time found me coming into the newsroom at a very odd hour. I was coming to produce. It was a Friday night, and he asked me what I was doing there. I was a little kid. What I told him that I was producing for the next morning. And he told me, "Look, gentlemen, we are kids. You can only come into the studio and do the program with them. But I don't want to find you here again."
He didn't want to be accused of child labor.
Maybe, but I didn't understand it at the time. I thought maybe he just didn't want me around. But he said, you can come into the studio to do the program with your guys, but don't be here at this order doing this. So it was production I was doing. And at that time, there was no production fee, like the station giving any money to go and do production. So that being banned from the newsroom and me wanting to do that means that I have to use my own money now to go to the internet cafe and then to produce all the content. So I did it. Wow. I just did it for 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Yeah, until I had to move on because of school and other reasons. I had to leave school and then to Qatar. Everything, from there. So this is the basics. And I think that I was also fortunate along the line to be in the hands of certain individuals who were willing and ready to teach me the trade. Alaji Tanko, the Angel Sports morning show in Kumasi. At the time, I was part of Sky FM. He took me under his wings. He taught me the basic rudiments of radio. And he was outside of the sporting jurisdiction at the time. He was playing drive time. But he opened his arms. He taught me a lot within the space at that time. And I think that all those things played a very, very key role. And he's one of the individuals who, at the time, played a very influential role in what I wanted to. What my passion was driving me to blind me. I didn't even know I was just doing it. And then he made sure that he charted a certain course for me. And I think that I really, really appreciate that. So this is the basic. This is the fundamental. My journalism career, my penchant for sports, and the merger with journalism and everything. This is how it all started.
I am interested in what your family thought of you at that time, moving to radio studio at all hours and using your money to do production, going to spend some hours in internet cafe. And what was your family saying?
Well, my mom didn't care. Like, she's not someone who is going to like break your head for doing this or that. And one thing, at the time, it's not like today that we have a proliferation of radio where there's radio everywhere, right? So that time, I remember it was KFM and BR.
Yeah, yes.
And to my mom and my other siblings, unfortunately, my dad wasn't around them because he passed away when I was 9 years.
Yeah.
For them, they saw it as a big marvel. Wow, Iman is here, he's talking on radio. And so they didn't even think about whatever I was doing. Let me tell you an interesting story. When I became a boarding student in Sussex, so I was still going, which means that anytime I have to step out of the school campus, I have to seek an exit. But I was going without exit.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's this course. I was a business student anyway, so there was this cost accounting tutor in the school at the time. So he's been hearing my name on radio. He listens to sports a lot, so he's been hearing my name and all that. So one time he came to class and somebody mentioned the name, and he came, "Look, are you the guy on there?" I said yes. So then my heart missed a bit. I thought it was going to go into details. How are you able to get out of campus around these times and go and sit on radio? Strangely, he never mentioned anything like that. He was rather encouraging me to keep on. He likes what I'm doing and all. So I don't know. Nobody really questioned me about any of those things.
And having one of two platforms that was available then meant that you had a captive audience for such a program. And possibly that even made you, quote unquote, a baddest star in the eyes of your family, more or less.
And even in school, even in school at the time. So there were times that I couldn't go to dining because I was a shy type.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit introvert at the time, but I've evolved. like because of media and all that, I've tried to evolve.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're going into the dining, and the dining hall is big, with almost everybody. And
400 students and the rest.
Yeah, our dining table was way back then. So if you start when everybody is, it means you have to walk all the way to the back. And the eyeballs, I couldn't handle it. So most of the times I was skipping dining. And the moment you enter, everybody is talking about you. This is the guy who's on radio. You know how SS is.
So you became a celebrity in secondary school. This is interesting. Wow. Wow. Let's look at what brought you to Accra and how you landed in the arms of the respected Ibrahim Sani Dara.
Yeah. Well, I think one of these things are mystical. One of my dreams at the time was to move to Accra.
Okay.
I could sit down and imagine myself being in Accra and doing radio, doing media and all those things. Even when I was 15, 13, I had this strong inner cravings that this is what I want to do, this is what I... So, yes, there's a how I go to Accra is very vivid and I know. But I think that it was these inner cravings that was pushing me toward. So we had a family friend who had established very well in Accra.
Okay.
When I was growing up, he knew me. He knew that I was a very forceful guy. Because before I even got to school, I was already working, right? So we had a beginning here. So I think one time we had a conversation with my senior brother, and then he went like, okay, so Ima has finished secondary school. Eventually, he went into the university. He's around. Why don't you let him come here and then get himself used to the life in Accra ahead of his university days? So they agreed, and then I moved. So I mentioned the other day that before I moved, I had sent a couple of articles to Graphic Sports at the time.
Oh, okay.
That's when I started writing. I started trying my hands on writing because I had then sort of had an opportunity on radio. So I wanted to explore that. So there's this one particular article that I had to send like more than 50 times before Graphic published it.
Wow.
So I was send this week, they won't publish. So I kept buying all the Graphic Sports editions until a fateful day on August 18. 2008. I remember very well. One morning, raining, a wet morning like this same August was 18. I don't know what today it is. Maybe a couple of days away from that particular day.
Tomorrow will be exactly.
Today is 17. Yeah, 2018. 2008. Sorry. So, I grabbed a copy of the Graphic Sports paper, and then I came to the column section, and my article was published there with my photo.
How was the feeling?
That was the happiest day in my life. Like I was holding the stuff like this, and this is my article published in the dailies, and this is my name. Akyereko, you are going everywhere. Like I was holding the newspaper like that, right? So when that got published, okay, so I told myself, okay, so once this article has been accepted by Graphic Sports, even though I have no formal training in terms of writing, I haven't written anything like that before, it means that I can try my hands on writing.
Yeah.
At the time, I think Ghana Soccernet was...
Before you go on to Ghana Soccernet, now, between the drafts or the piece you sent to Graphic Sports and what came out, was there a significant difference after editing?
Not much. Wow. I tell you, not much. That's what I was actually looking out for, because I didn't understand why I sent and then they didn't publish. I didn't understand. So eventually what I found out was skewed, right? Because a lot of people send columns and all that. So what I sent, right? So I picked the draft I sent, and then I compared to what was published, and it wasn't much, maybe one or two typos that were corrected. There was an article at the time around the 2007 under-17 squad that played in Korea and Japan.
Okay.
And that had Sadiq Adams, Ishmeyate, Abeku Kwanza, and the rest. And I was talking about properly grooming them to make sure that they become the next batch of Black Stars players. Yeah, and then published. They didn't change much. Yeah.
Let's go to Ghana Soccer Net.
Yeah, so after in the moment that this article was published, so like I said, I told myself that, dude, you can, once you've written something, it's been accepted and been published in the dailies, it means that you can try something else. So at the time, I think Soccer Net was around 9 months old, or maybe roughly around a year old.
Okay.
So I went online, picked the email address at the top, and then sent them an email that I'm so person with this background, then I'm interested in joining them as a writer. So I got a response to my email from Ibrahim Redwan Asante.
Oh, okay.
Who was editor for the website at the time. I think after a couple of questions, he gave me his number. I called him, we spoke. So he introduced me to the team. Around that time, it was Nia Itete, Patrick Akoto, Redwan, myself, and Ibrahim Sanidara. There was one other guy, I've forgotten his name. So I got in. So I said I wanted to have an identity online.
Okay.
And this is what I want to be noted for. Back then in secondary school, I used to, when I go into the internet cafe, I used to scout for the names of Ghanaian players playing everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Especially the Ghanaian players in Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, Juventus, and all that. So I normally will print the names of these players in Excel, and then come and put them on the walls, right? So that the students who love sports will just come out. So normally, sometimes when I'm coming out of class, I'll find a lot of them standing around, and then they are reading what I have written there. So I've noted that's influence. I mean, you are getting people to read what you're writing.
Superstar status.
But there was this one tutor, we used to call him Cozy. He was a sports master at the time. So you will come, look at the thing, and then you see at that time, Emmanuel Frimpong. Which Emmanuel Frimpong International? Why is he not playing? You, Danny Welbeck. Who told you Danny Welbeck is at Manchester United? Why is he not? Then you just clip the thing and then pull everything down. So I thought, wow. So when I got to Ghana Soccer Net, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to specialize on Ghanaian players playing abroad. So every weekend, I will do stuff on over 300, 400 Ghanaian players playing everywhere in the world. England, Italy, Spain, to even the hinterlands in Europe, where people don't know that Ghanaian players are there. And I did that. And out of that, I established a lot of connections with players, agents, and all that. So I became a reference point to most of the players who received call up to play for the Black Stars between, I think, from 2009 up to maybe 2014 or so.
Oh, okay.
Almost every single Black Stars call up. New players who come in: Majid Waris, Mohamed Abu, Adam Korase, a number of them, Ishmeyate, Christian Achu, Thomas Partey, Raphael Jamina, a lot of these names. I was not just reporting on them, but I was a gateway to these players. If any radio station in town wanted to talk to these players, they had to come to me. And it is because of what I chose to do at Ghana Soccer Net at the time. One of the significant outstanding interviews I did at the time was when Andres Villas-Boas left FC Porto to Chelsea. At the time, I was coaching Christian Achu there. And I was the first person to talk to Christian Achu when he went to Porto and all that. I got to know him through Ishmeyate, who was playing in Portugal at the time. So I did that interview. And that was the first time that Sanidara commended me for, like, he said that interview traveled, like it was a milestone, because for actually talking about Andre Villas-Boas, who was appointed the Chelsea head coach and all that. So I think that's how I started the Ghana Soccer Net experience. And was from 2008, and I did it until when I left in on March 6th, March 2017.
Wow. Journalism, does it pay?
Well, it depends on which context you are looking at it from. If you're looking at it from a context where, like, the physical cash.
Yes, financially.
What fetches you at the end of every month, it doesn't pay. But the other thing that it also does for you, that you will be wrong to say that it doesn't pay, is the connections it gives you.
The social capital.
Yeah, the doors it opens for you and all these things. So if you are being honest, yes, you are looking at this and you say, okay, every month I'm earning around 3,000 Ghana cedis. Today, in every single 3,000 Ghana cedis is less than
it's just a few USD.
Yeah, less than $350 or so. Right?
Yes.
So it doesn't pay in that regard. But in terms of doors, like you mention your name, and then, oh, you are this person. Okay. Normally, the guard that people have built around them, they lower those guards because it's you. They've heard the name somewhere on radio, or they've seen you on TV, or they've read something that you've written. So I think that it pays. It pays. I'll be very ungrateful to say that it doesn't pay, because if I look at my background, where I came from, and the opportunity that journalism has given me, I think I'll be very, very ungrateful to say that it doesn't pay. Pays.
How has social media redefined the practice of journalism?
Well, a lot of ways. If you want to properly understand this, you have to look at journalism before the advent of mobile phones. Then you transition that into the introduction of Android. Then to social media.
Your audio is off.
And you do an analysis of, right? You see that social media has made it possible for you to reach a wider audience, right? For instance, so what I was doing mainstream online, right? So Ghana, for example, let me use Ghana Web. Ghana Web has been there for ages before even Facebook and these things came.
That's right.
There was an article published on Ghana Web, let's say in 1990 or 2000, where people were not on social media as they are today. Very likely that my audience, the readership, the interaction, the engagement that I'll get on that particular article, the traffic, will be limited. The organic users, the people who log into www.Ghana Web and then click the article and open. But today, social media has made it possible for me that if I publish an article on Ghana Sports Online, there are a base of 200,000 people sitting somewhere on a particular page that I can copy the URL of the story and the headline, and then maybe the lead, and post in there. All the SEO stuff that help with the traffic and all that, post that in there. And I'll be able to reach a wider audience. Before social media, this wasn't possible. So do a normal traffic analysis of what I do. I pick Ghana Sports Online, maybe data for last month, the traffic analysis and all that. So you could see that a chunk of our traffic were audience were directed from social media onto the website. Like, it is hugely important to journalism. It has played a very, very useful in widening the audience base, giving us a new market where we can advertise and explore. So I think that it has had very positive implications, though there are negative aspects of it also. But in terms of implication, I think that it's been very, very positive.
In Ghana, and by extension in Africa, social media has created richer bloggers than richer journalists. What didn't journalists do that made them unable to take full advantage of social media, such that ordinary people who might not have had any form of media background have been able to maximize it to their economic advantage?
Ethics, basically. So if you've been to any professional journalism institution like GIJ, or where they pay to this, there are certain principles, certain guidelines that you are taught not to practice, right? So, for instance, yes, sensationalism is part of journalism, right? Drama, exaggeration are all part of art and journalism, but you do that in moderation.
Yes.
Right? And if you look at typical bloggers, I'm not taking a dig at anyone, but if you look at some of the stuff that they put out there, some of them are pure sensationalism.
The eyeballs mean more to them.
To them than the ethics. Sometimes we see an article with a headline that draws you. It's a bait in there. You click and there's nothing in there. And these guys get the numbers because of what they are putting in there. But my training from a professional journalism institution doesn't teach me to do that. So I think I always have those blocks in place that I can't go beyond it. But those people, they don't care, right? They don't care. So I think it's basically conversation of ethics and also paying key attention to, and not just a conversation about the ethics, but also paying key attention to those metrics that are available for you to use. I think most bloggers understand that. Most journalists also do not pay attention to them. For instance, when I'm publishing a story online, right, for Google to index the story within a certain time frame, there are certain key indicators, keywords, key phrases that will help Google to index the story, that will help the story to trend. So, for instance, if I'm writing a story about Asamoah, like he's granted an interview yesterday, right? In the search engine operated behind at the back end, there are stuff that I put in there that will make sure that if somebody Googles Asamoah, my story will be among the top 10, right? This is knowledge, right? This is something that you have to actually learn to know. You have to go to school. You have to do online marketing to understand some of these things. And I mean, excuse me to say, most of our guys, most of us from the pure journalism training background have not yet explored it. But these bloggers are out there because they are chasing revenue. They know that they want the eyeballs, and the eyeballs are the ones that draw the revenue. So they're taking the pain to learn this. So anytime they put stuff out there, you can publish something on graphic online, wherever, and then publish. It's a published article, right? The content that you've generated, but will not get the eyeballs because you have not put in the key things that will let the thing go viral.
You mentioned Asamoah. We woke up yesterday to see the internet littered with news about him wanting a place in Ghana's squad for the upcoming World Cup in Qatar. Christian Achu, who is a teammate, says Ghana should grant his wish, his last wish. What is your take?
Well, when I saw the interview with John Bennett, I saw I took my time to watch the video of what the questions that were being posed or were posed by John Bennett and Asamoah's responses. I think I wasn't too convinced. And if you've seen Asamoah in the past 3 years, he's been off. Somebody will make the point that he played for Lagos City. Yes, he played for Lagos City, but he's been off color. That's not Asamoah that we've known for years. Even in Egypt in 2019, where he last played for the Black Stars, he wasn't that active. Out of the total minutes that were Ghana played at the tournament, he played only 48 minutes at AFCON. So between July 2019 and now, it's over 3 years. Lagos City, he played, he couldn't score a goal, he couldn't hit the crossbar, he didn't provide an assist. And if you look at his physical condition now, I'm sure you've seen some of the images that are circulating of him on the internet. It doesn't. I am not convinced that Asamoah can come back and then play active football. And I also think that our national team is going through a cycle, right? If you do the product life cycle analysis, right, and then you see that the Black Stars from 2006, 2007, 2010, 2014 to where we go to the AFCON finals, right? The Black Stars has been on a decline, right? So if you're doing a product life cycle analysis, it means that the Black Stars is at a redevelopment stage. So it means that there are certain elements that it's painful that we have to do away with. We need to rebuild the Black Stars. We need to reposition the Black Stars. And Asamoah and most of these guys like Sule Muntari, Emmanuel Ajimabedu, most of his generation belong to the old stock. I think we need to start a new project, and that new project needs to start with a new band of players. He's had his time. He's one of the greatest strikers I've seen, not just in Ghana, but in Africa and in the world. He was magnificent. He did his stuff. He played in the EPL. He scored an amazing goal in the 2010 FIFA World Cup against the USA in South Africa. That has left an indelible memory in almost everyone who saw that particular World Cup. But I think that he had to accept that this is reality. It is his wish. He has the desire to play at the World Cup, but his physical condition will not allow him to play. Even if he had been able to do what Sule Muntari did last season with Hearts of Oak, right? I think that would have been very, very much interesting for maybe have a conversation about him. But I think that Asamoah should just maybe take interest in other capacities, maybe in coaching or something. But in terms of coming back with the Black Stars, I think that if he goes in there, it's going to create more confusion than ever. I mean, we heard rumors about the frosty relationship we had with Ayew, Andre Ayew, and what the captain here and all that. I've personally gone behind the scenes. There's not everything I can share here, but I know there were turbulent times within the national team at the time. So I think that, and also for the handlers of the team to manage the peace and tranquility within the team, this is not the time to take such a step to bring Asamoah back to the national team. So I think that Gyan himself should sit down and say that, Gyan, this is not the right thing to do. Don't come back to the Black Stars.
Doing sports journalism in Ghana, when I was an intern, I was at Graphic Sports. That was in 2005, though I didn't continue sports journalism as a career.
Okay.
But one of the things I realized is that the elders say a river cannot pass through the forest without uprooting some trees. If you must make impact in this area, then sometimes certain big shots and untouchables come within firing line of your work.
Yeah.
Has your job ever put your life in danger?
Yeah, I won't put it like in danger, but I think in 2010, when I was in the 200, I got a call from Ibrahim Dara. This is something funny. At the time, I started doing proper newspaper reporting with Captivating Ghana Sports newspaper, and I wrote an article about Kwesi Ntechi's administration. At the time, Sani wasn't even working with the GFA at the time. He joined later. I was in class, at the lecture hall when I got a call from a UK number. I was surprised, like, who called me from UK at such a time, because I haven't had a conversation. So I answered the call and alone, because there was a lecturer in the class, and I said, please, I'm in the lecture hall. Akyereko, get out of the class. I want to talk to you now. That was Ibrahim Sanidara's voice.
Oh, wow. So, your former boss?
Yeah, my former boss. So I stepped out of the class, and then it was Kwesi Ntechi who had reported me to him that I'd written an article in the Ghana Sports Online criticizing his administration and what he's doing and all that. So he had some few hard lines for me, but I mean, he's a senior, so I had to take it and then mellow it down. So I think that was at that point I felt a little bit threatened, because at the time I heard rumors about people being intimidated and all that. And I think at the time too, Dankwa had told me that there are times that he's gone to the FA and some of the guys who like him, they step on his toes. That look, they prompted him that look, don't be frequenting here, because these guys, they get you, they'll hurt you. So because he was very critical of the Football Association at the time. So when that call came in, I was a little bit concerned that this thing that I've done with this man. But it was a harmless critique of what he was doing at the time. So I think, that should be the most dangerous thing. And I think that this one too is on a personal level. Shamokwe has this nephew who used to play at Espanyol.
Okay.
And so in my dealings, I got to know this lady who is mostly a player manager, sort of local play agent.
Okay.
Right. And then I got a few players who recounted their experiences with the lady to me. And this player that I'm talking about, Okwe, he was one of the massive Ghanaian talents who I think that should have broken into the main headlines, but because of one or two reasons he couldn't. So I saw that there has been an association between the lady and this guy. So my Good Samaritan stuff, I tried to prompt him that, look, be careful of this lady. And the guy went to tell the lady, and it became a whole big issue. So it's something. These are the two things that I think, aside that,
But I will want to probe a little further on the Ibrahim Sani Dara call issue. Now, this was your boss who trained you and taught you a number of things as a journalist.
Yeah.
The table turned and he decided to put his interest above your work, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then do the bidding of somebody who felt undone or attacked by your piece. Did that leave you in a dilemma situation as a journalist?
No. Do you know why?
I'm listening.
Because in level 200, I was branching into PR. I majored in PR journalism. So I think at that time I was aware that there's a conversation that has been established about Sani coming to occupy the head of communication at the GFA. And that is purely PR job. So I took it from that perspective, okay, this is my boss doing PR. So in PR, you try to get all this. So I didn't see that at all. So I knew that it was PR that he was in for the man, and he was eventually going to assume that role. So for me, it was dumb. I didn't take any hard feeling at all. So I just told him that, look, I'll stop this. Okay.
If we are to go back into time, 20 years, are you still going to choose the same path?
Yeah, I'll choose the same path. Because if I sit there and cast my mind back, maybe aside being a detective, all right?
Wow.
Because when I was growing up, I read a lot of books. I have a lot of books every time I buy books, right? So I have one here. Let me show you. So I have this book. I'm a reader. I read books. This is a Confessions of the Economic Hitman. So I buy books. So back when I was in primary school, JSS, SS, I used to read a lot of books, especially detective books. And I read this book, The Laboya, The African Detective. So it's in detective work. But I think that, and I didn't explore that. But if I cast my mind back and I said I really wanted to do something else apart from this, I'm being a liar. This is what I was passionate about. This is what I wanted to do. And I don't think the experiences in this field will draw me back to say that, oh, I wish I had not done this. This is a good space. And if I had the opportunity, maybe I'll tweak one or two things to position myself better than now. Yeah.
What stands out as your most challenging assignments these years, or set of assignments, if it's not just one?
I would say it. So it was in level 300 or so.
Okay.
Right. And it was about Richard Kingston. It was a time that nobody was getting him to talk. And when I say nobody, I mean the journalist in Ghana was not getting him to talk. So I got a call from Ibrahim Redwan Asante. And he said we should talk to Richard Kingston. Right? And I asked him, Chief, you are Joy FM. you are known. You come on TV. Richard Kenson knows you. So if you want to talk to Richard Kenson, why can't you pick a phone and introduce yourself that you are this person? Why are you calling me? No, he said, no, we have to do it. If I go, he won't talk. So we have to do it. And he says he said that, okay, Kenson doesn't know you, Richard Kenson doesn't know you.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself as a BBC journalist. The moment he hears the BBC, he's going to grant you the interview.
Okay.
So I lie back on my bed, this thing, am I not impersonating?
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't work for the BBC. Why should I go and tell the guy that I work at the BBC?
And that can be big trouble for you.
Yeah. So I lied back. He gave me his number. I sent him WhatsApp. Hi. He replied. I didn't have the courage to type anything again. I never did the interview. That was it. I never pushed up because I thought it's not something that I had to do. So I didn't do. To lie about my capacity to get an interview, no. And it wasn't like golden memories. And it wasn't like it's something that was a criminal investigation that even if I had lied to do it, I could defend that because it was criminal.
Exactly, because you needed to expose something. Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't do it. Yeah.
How different was the training at GIG? Did they show you something different from what you had been doing all the years before? Or it was just business as usual? There was really nothing new about it.
Do you know the honest response? Sometimes I could sit in a lecture hall, right? And this is me reporting, doing big interviews. I'd interview Michael Essien, Adam Korasi, like a number of big stars before I got to GNJ. And I sit in level 100 and the psychology lecturer comes, he's talking about Sigmund Freud and blah, 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 blah. So I'm sitting there and asking, okay, I've been writing this. How is this related? I want the core thing, the hard stuff, how to write an article, this, the do's and don'ts. And I'm learning sociology and all these things. So somehow in the early stages, I thought that all these things are not necessary. They are not necessary stuff. But I think along the lines, the hard stuff came in.
Yeah.
Cultural anthropology, for instance,
proved
to be very relevant. Was taught by Frimpong, a lecturer.
Yes, lawyer.
And, Kwashiga also came in at some point, news writing, which was now direct to.
But of course, you needed the things like the psychology and the rest.
Exactly. So that was my mind.
You can walk through the minds of people you interview.
So that's what I'm talking about. So in level 100, that was my mind. That what are you guys talking about? That was in my mind in level 100. But when it was all said and done, I realized that this was very, very, very much important that I learned this. And I always remember the stuff that Dr. Stanley Samako.
Yeah, Dr. Stanley Samako.
Taught me in psychology class. Dr. Wilberforce Jisa, Mr. Jehu, and all the lectures. I think that the stuff that I learned in there was very, very important. In fact, there was a campus radio. It was our time that the campus radio started. But once again, they were now going to teach you how to talk into the microphone and all that, which that I've done, I have known. So I didn't find the need to go into those classes, and especially when hassle with the fine girls who wanted to, sit behind the console.
How many more years do you want to go before you drop your pen?
Once a writer, always a writer. Yeah, I will continue to write, and I have an ambition of writing a book. A book not about an individual, but about society.
Okay.
But I think maybe somewhere along the line I might drop off a little bit, and then maybe come back later, not in the same capacity, maybe in a different capacity as an author, and then and write stuff about maybe our society, how we can change the society, on controversial topics and all that. So I think journalism is part of me. I'll continue to write, but I know somewhere along the line, maybe I'll drop off sometime to go and maybe seek greener pastures elsewhere and then come back into the field. Yeah.
There is a lot of attrition in the field. Qualified, trained professionals are abandoning the boat. Some of them are going into public relations or corporate communications. Others are just finding themselves into any area that will give them survival. What is accounting for this? I know it is obvious that maybe some of those who started have abandoned the ship. Others are leaving and they will still continue to leave. What is happening?
You see, those who are leaving and are never coming back are those who never in their early days had a passion and the drive to do journalism. Let me tell you something. When I finished national service, when I finished Gyan, I was posted to Airtel Ghana. So I have a telecom experience. I worked at Airtel for 6 years, all right? And then Vodafone for 1.5 years. Not in the shop, but in the head office at Brink. So at the time, I had every opportunity to wash my hands off journalism because already it wasn't giving me the cash, the fiscal cash like I wanted. But because I had a drive for it, sometimes there were times that I had to even put my job at Airtel on the line because I was overstepping the boundaries. There were players that I was taking for using company cards to drive around for interviews, to this and that and that and that and that. I was doing all those things. So I'm saying this in this regard, that if not for the drive and the passion I had for journalism, I'm sure I would have dropped off like most of the guys that you're talking about in the high attrition rate in the space, right? But I think that if you truly have the passion, and it has always been your dream to do what you do and to influence society and influence society positively through journalism, because what the media does, it's established that the impact, the agenda setting angle of the media is one of the most powerful tools that you can use to influence people or society. And I think if you are fully aware of this and you had the right passion to do this, even if you drop off, you will still come back. So I think it's all conversation of passion and what people do. And these are people who tell themselves that, okay, journalism doesn't pay in it. I want to earn 10,000 Ghana cedis a month. I want to earn 15,000. My work is only giving me 2,500. It's not enough to sustain me, sustain my family. It's not enough to pay the bills. So Jack, I have to go and find something else to do. And it's not just in journalism. It's in the healthcare system, security system, everywhere. When you put people who find themselves in a space that they thought that they could make ends meet and not for the passion of the job and what they really wanted to do. So these people find themselves getting disappointed and then leaving the space after some time.
Politicians are increasingly setting up media houses. The political ownership of the media, do we have a cause to be worried? Is there a reason for concern?
Yes, there's a big reason to be concerned, right? So one, if I get employed into such an enterprise, right, as a journalist, say a party in power, an element in party in power sets up a media house, right? Because they're in power, there's money, there's everything, like you are well remunerated, you are happy, you're working. But the moment they go out of power, everything goes down. Your salary is not coming in and all that. And we have a number of examples, many examples.
So many of them, that's right.
So in line, in terms of the welfare of journalists in this regard, for me, it's not ideal. If somebody is going to be a media owner, it has to be someone who understands the media trade, who knows what he wants to use the media to do, not someone who just wants to use it for a political agenda, because they know that, like I said, the agenda setting function of the media, the influence the media has, because our society is still so porous that there are a chunk majority of the populace who every single thing they hear it on the radio is taken as the holy truth. So politicians are wise, they've gotten to know this, and they are using that to influence,
control the narrative.
Yeah, and to do many other things to their advantage. And I think that in this regard, this is also not good. But in terms of contributing to the numbers, right? You know, the duopoly is what we have, the duopoly, where state-owned media organizations and maybe a few. Now there's no duopoly anymore. Now there is multiplicity, like radio is everywhere, it's available everywhere.
That's right.
One other danger is also that because of that, it has made the job so cheap that like almost every untrained person who can sit on radio and talk or who can speak in public, the mic he's either put behind the console or the microphone is open for such person to talk.
In fact, a colleague I hosted told me that funeral MCs now are some of the choice materials of some media owners. He goes to a funeral and he hears the person string a number of appellations to introduce somebody. The next morning you hear him on the morning show that he's the host.
So that's some of the dangers. And earlier on you mentioned about blogging, the bloggers getting recognition, revenue, and those things than trained journalists. This is also another aspect, because once again, our society is that porous that these guys were able to rattle and put these appellations together. When they hear such people on radio, they get drawn to them because that's what the society is used to. But the one who understands the tenet, who understands the ethics of the profession and wants to go by them, I mean, it's becoming a huge challenge. So I think that maybe the regulators in the industry need to do something about ownership, media ownership, right? So when you go into any serious venture, they want to look at your long-term viability, right? Not an individual, the politician picking money from his pocket to come and invest in the business. The media regulator should be able to establish that, okay, you say you are running a radio station in this place. How much is the station fetching you in annually? How much are you paying your workers? Can you match it? Like what we have in the UEFA fair play system for football clubs. I think that maybe the regulators need to put certain parameters in place to even regulate the system, but also to reduce the chaff in the system. I think that these things are very, very key to the survival of the industry. Other than that, we're always going to have a conversation of today there's a radio station somewhere, they employed so and so journalists, they were paying them $5,000 a month, and after 1.5 years, the station has collapsed and people are unemployed.
Have you at any point in your career been approached with anything monetary or material to compromise the facts of any piece you were doing and then take it?
No. No.
That means you've operated in a safety net.
Let me give you one. I'll mention a person's name for privacy because it's a conversation I was exposed to.
That's right,
Somebody who takes a stand, right? And I will defend the stand from start to finish.
That's right.
Everybody who knows me in the media landscape know this thing about me. There's this colleague of mine who was this year, somewhere around January or so, I think around either February or so, we're having a conversation about someone in the football hierarchy who approached him and then gave him money and all that because of where he is, and then told him to mellow down. So according to him, he said my name was mentioned. I said, no, don't go there, don't go to this guy. Because he would either come out and then talk about it or something. So I don't know, maybe because I'm loud, because people know when I take this position, people are a little bit cautious. Even though maybe I'm not too popular, but for me, I think these principles have defined me, so people don't come. But in terms of players, normally I'll do publications about players for maybe a season. Sometimes they come down, and I'm not going to lie about it. Ishmael, Emmanuel, Majid Waris, these guys, they'll come down in the season, they'll call you, let's go and see someone have lunch or have a dinner or something. And then we'll go do that. And then they give you their replica, or they give you something. These things are normal. I've never taken money from somebody to say, go and do agenda for me. Nobody has ever approached me. You can't.
In fact, I think one thing that is reality in journalism is that depending on how you position yourself, those who pay bribes always know those who can be bribed.
Okay. That's
do you agree with me?
I agree. Those who declared. For instance, I know colleagues who go on radio, and now the listeners know them that these are agenda journalists.
That's right.
They come in here, and what they are doing is somebody's bidding. So I think that if people are looking for people to go and do that, they will go to such a person to do that.
Those are the people that even on live radio, the lie they are telling is so loose that the truth accidentally falls out of their mouth. They push it back and still tell the lie.
Yeah. So I think these guys you are talking about will prefer to go to these people than to come to me.
Exactly, because Reverend Samuel Ebokwetu, who is at the Graphic Sports, when he is a senior colleague, I met him there when I went on internship. When I went there, the likes of Nathaniel Ato, Kofi Owusu, Morris Kwanzaa, Akantoni, Felix Abayate was the editor. They were there, very excellent bunch, and Rosalind Amu. And he was telling me that depending on how you position yourself, no matter who the person is, you will not attempt it if you're a no-nonsense person when it comes to compromise and inducements. My final question, should journalists be licensed?
Of course, we should. Yeah, we should. You see, now in the space, we should be able to generate a ranking of journalists in the country. Right? And the first step to starting that is licensing the practitioners within the space.
Okay.
It's not just about joining SWAG or joining the GJ.
Yeah.
You have to be licensed. You have to.
But even the GJ and SWAG, they are voluntary setups. I have never been a member of the GJ, but I'm a trained journalist. You know.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is this. So to that as a starting point, you need to first of all make sure that whatever the person learned in his area, in from journalism, from AUCC, wherever, the person can sit down, write a certain paper, the person passes his license, maybe for a particular period. We have to keep writing refreshers and all that. Aside that, we need to rank journalists in this country and do that fairly, right? We need to allow journalists in this country to submit the works that they've done within a certain period for appraisal, for assessment, and based on that, rank journalism. And I believe that that will give a proper meaning, a proper definition to what we are doing in this country. For me, I think that by now, journalists should have service passport. Because of what we are doing the services that we are rendering to the country. And we can only start this conversation when journalists in this country are licensed. And when we begin to put such mechanisms in place, like ranking of journalists, who is number one journalist in the country, who is doing what and all that. I think there's a conversation that we need to have now if we really need to regulate the industry. Like we having a lot of, excuse my language, a lot of guys from the sideways bumping into the main road, and they come and then they manage to find their way, and then they get more popular than even the guys who are trained. I think that we really should do this. I believe that if, for instance, if you are writing a license exams, most of the guys who are noisy on maybe on radio or television or online might not be able to pass. And I think it's a necessary conversation that we need to have.
What are your golden memories these 15 years or more?
Oh, a lot. I've had a lot of golden memories, a lot. I think the first time was when I took a player as a project, right? And worked on him for 9 months continuous, and he got a Blaster scholar.
Okay.
I jubilated. It wasn't my call up, but everybody knew that was the work I was doing. Like I was keeping constant update on the player and like how he was doing and all that. And then he got invited.
Okay.
And after a lot more followed. But I think the biggest one was Rafael Jamina, the player who got it, because he was playing in Division 2 in Austria. So when he approached me, that he wants me to write articles about him and all that. So I asked myself, player playing in. He said that somebody had recommended me to him, that if he wants to talk to me. So I asked him, is this a player playing in Austria? Austria is not mainstream Europe. When you're talking about football, they are not one of the powerful. And he was not playing in the top tier in Austria. He was playing in the second tier for a feeder club. So I asked myself that, how am I going to be able to do this? This is going to be really difficult. But some way, somehow, I was able to do it. And he also performed very well to make the work less difficult. And I think within 9 months, he got a Blaster scholar from Avram Grant. For me, I think that's the biggest thing, not the biggest, but one of the biggest that I can really recall. That picking a player who was playing, because I did PR at Gyan. So I was combining the PR and the journalism to it. And then I was able to do that for a player who was playing in second tier football in Austria to get a Blaster ball up in 9 months. I think it was massive, because before I started that, I took this upon myself as a challenge, and I needed ways to do that, and I was able to do it.
Let's seal it with this. What's your take on Solly?
Well, I think that I'm not against Solly, payments of Solly, but it should be voluntary. No journalist should go to any event and demand for Solly before they do what they're supposed to do. If you invite a journalist to come and cover your program, you want publicity. That is PR, right?
Yes.
That's PR, because you are inviting the journalist to come and cover your event for you. He did not come there out of his own volition. Right?
Yes.
So he comes there and you agree that, okay, I'm going to pay your transportation and maybe I'm going to buy your data or whatever cost. I'm going to cater for that. And that, he puts that in an envelope to give to you, that, okay, this is what I have for you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes a norm, that even when journalists are not invited to an event, they go there and they go and hustle and go and write their names. And when the program ends, they are fighting over 50 Ghana, 100 Ghana cities. I see a very big problem with that.
But now some approach it with a sense of entitlement. In fact, one of our senior colleagues I engaged here told me that some PROs have been pocketing money meant for journalists. And at the end of
how do you know the money was meant for you and somebody has pocketed it?
I mean, it's a whole lot of mess. And he says, at the end of the day, they share peanuts to the journalists, but they pocket the bigger chunk. I don't even.
But that's the whole conversation I'm talking about. If you are invited to the event and there's a pre-arrangement, to come and cover my story for me. When you come, I'll take up your transportation costs, maybe your feeding, your internet, and all that, and you go. You're entitled to that. But when you are not invited and you go there, or even when you are invited, right, and you go and fight over the money, it looks as if you went there purposely for the money.
Yeah.
So that's the reason. That's how come we go to situation. We have situations where journalists go for an event, maybe the solid they receive is too small and they are not publishing the stories, right? Or they go and decide not to even talk about the story at all because they were not paid anything. That shouldn't be it, especially when you go there on your own volition. Nobody invited you there. Yeah. You go there on your own volition and you pick up the content. I mean, it's your choice. You can go there and then you look at the weight of the story and you find much more weightier stories. Yeah, okay, I'll drop this and then do the other one. But if the motive is because you are not paid, it's not right. All right. I won't advocate for a total scrap, but I think that we journalists also need to position ourselves in such a way that we understand some of these things. I don't think that either way is wrong or is also correct.
Why is it that Black Star players or Ghanaian players abroad don't like being interviewed by local journalists?
Are you sure?
Let me give you an certain instance. There are times they go for tournaments, you know, out there at the team camp and all that during the tournament. Sometimes we get to hear that they open up to these foreign journalists than even the Ghanaian journalists they went with.
Well, I think that, let me give you an example. So, Ajimabadu grants an interview to maybe a journalist in Accra, Kumasi, wherever, right? And then he comes, and within a couple of hours or days, he finds the story online with a twist of what he said. It happens once, it happens twice, and then maybe the third time. So a BBC guy comes around, or CNN, wherever, Sky Sports come around, he grants an interview, and they post exactly what he said. No matter how you look at it, no matter which local journalist did that, he will carry that tag and then slap it around all the local journalists. And I think this has been the basics. Some people have done this, and this tag has gone on. But then again, you also talk about relationship. Yesterday, something happened when I was on a program last night, sports program. And there's this Black Stars player they are going to call, an ex-Black Stars player. He recently retired. And he wasn't picking up. So they came to me, I picked my phone, I called the guy and I spoke to him, and the thing was sorted. So it also has to do with relationship, the relationship that you build with the players. In every endeavor is a conversation of relationship. But I think that mostly these things are due to ethical breaches that players are not too happy with when they find such content, maybe about them, things that they did not exactly say being put out there, and misrepresentation and all these things. These things have played a big role in developing that trend. Yeah.
Emmanuel Akyereko Frimpong has been my guest. Sports runs through his veins, maybe in the blood. Maybe we can do a little cut on his body to find out how many goals, corner kicks, and other things that will flow through the blood. Because that's what he talks. And he even put his job in the corporate sector in danger just because of his passion. Eventually, he becomes back to his first love. He's been my guest today. Thank you, my brother, for your time.
You're welcome, Chief. You're welcome, Chief.
Right. This has been PENSDOWN. Journalism Gems. That's what we talk here. We'll be back next time with another colleague. Do stay tuned and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.